Hello, thank you for joining me again. I had planned on today being a recording day, but it's ever so blustery outside, and I know that does tend to affect the sound quality. So I'm dodging around from place to place in my house, and I've come here to a place where I exposed these beams many years ago now. I'll include the link to a piece on it called Spontaneity because it was not planned. I just happened to come into the room with a screwdriver in my hand and I started digging away, telling myself, well, I know that there's the A-frame in the room backing onto this, so there must be an A-frame in here. And there was. So I want to talk a little bit about confirmation bias. I think it's something that we're all, guilty of, that we all use, let's put it like that. Because sometimes it can be a positive, sometimes it can be a negative. I mean, when I'd started doing this, I went online and did a check on exposing beams. And it really should have confirmed the fact that it was a job for a professional. It was difficult, heavy, dirty work. Yeah, I read, inwardly digested, and immediately rejected with an I can do it. And I did. So sometimes the confirmation bias we can ignore. Maybe if I had ignored it, well, this would still be a plain wall. I'm glad I didn't. But it happens if we come across information, if we're in a discussion, if we are in a meeting. For me, it used to happen more often than not in a meeting, that the person talking, if I had a good opinion of them, then I would listen. If I didn't, then the information that they were giving me would always be allowed to act as a confirmation bias that they're talking out of the top of their head. And actually, I wasn't the only one that thought that about this particular person who I am currently envisaging. Right, please leave my head. But for some, we can fight it and go with the flow of what we want to do, as in, where there's a will, there's a way. But for others, they will use that information to confirm their thoughts, their feelings, how they cope with things, how they cope with life. It can be spun. It can be spun in many ways. So, does it actually exist if it can be spun in either way? That's a good question, Dee. I'd not thought of that one until I started speaking. I guess that depends on the situation and how entrenched you are in your opinions, in your feelings, in your beliefs. Because some people can make a piece of information confirm their bias, whilst another person can use that same piece of information to confirm their exact opposite bias. This is when things get complicated. and discussions can quite readily be downgraded to arguments and not very friendly arguments. But if it does confirm your bias, then hopefully that brings you comfort. It makes you feel, yeah, I'm right. And is that a good thing, to always feel that you're right? Maybe it boosts your confidence, maybe it boosts your self-esteem. But is everybody always right? If so, how do we get on in this world? Maybe that's why we don't. But if we are using the confirmation bias to back us up, does it lead to a closing down of what might be considered an already not very open mind, shall we say? And what happens if that mind becomes completely closed and unwilling to listen to new information, new findings, new evidence? And I think in the medical field, this would apply. And it probably applies in the field that I discussed earlier in the day, the archaeological field, the digs and everything, that there has been stuff discovered that could be a complete eye-opener. But if people are keeping their eyes closed to it, how do they dismiss it if there's evidence given? Do you know, this is getting a whole lot more complicated than I thought it was going to be. I'm thinking through cotton wool today, and I thought that would be a simple one to talk about. Wrong. Or maybe I've confirmed my bias that, yes, you are thinking through cotton wool, Dee. You can't think this through. But is it something that you are aware of you having, of you using, of you needing? I would hope that I would use it at times, but would also be willing to reject it and say, no, that gives me food for thought. I need to have a rethink in that direction. And to me, maintaining that open mind is so important. On that note, I shall say thank you for joining me, and I will include the link in the blurb below on the description of my task behind me. And every time I come in here, I actually feel very proud of myself. And that's okay. Take care. Bye for now. Speak to you soon. Bye.